Hello children, I'm just back with a new video and you are watching my YouTube channel, and today I'm just going to discuss about 1857's revolt from chapter number 5. The name of the chapter is Reaction Against Colonial Rule, Cooperation and Revolt, from where I'm just going to discuss. I will just reveal lots of untold and unrevealed facts to you. I will try to just reveal all those important facts to you so that you can just memorize the chapter, you can just memorize this topic so nicely. Okay, first of all, let me tell you that 1857's revolt, before just knowing 1857's revolt, the causes, the reasons for the outbreak of 1857's revolt, what were the consequences or the impacts of 1857's revolt, we must know, children, the historical chronology. Historical chronology is very important, or in other way we can say that chronology deserves a special mention in historical aspect or historical studies. So that's why this is my recommendation, children. Don't just skip the video, watch till the end, and I'm sure, pretty sure about that you will not just get disappointed. You will just learn lots of things, and so many lots of informations will be just given that are not written in this book. And most importantly, children, that 1857's revolt is also included. It will be a part of Madhyamik examination. When you will be in standard 10 at the time, you have to just read this topic. So I hope that you will just learn the video. I hope that you will just listen and just watch the video till the end. You will not skip not a single second. Okay, so just a few seconds ago, I have already told you that chronology is very important in history, for any historical studies, for any country's history. So that's why I'm saying that how does chronology play a very vital role for reconstructing the historical events. Let's just explain that. Let's just reveal that. So first of all, 1757 is very important in the Indian history, especially in the history of Bengal. You all know that 1757, 23rd of June, what was happened? You know that, yes, obviously the Battle of Plassey, that was fought in the year of 1757 between Robert Clive and Nawab Siraj-ud-Dowla. He was the last independent Nawab of Bengal. So Siraj-ud-Dowla and Robert Clive, on behalf of the British East India Company, English East India Company, Robert Clive was there. So after exactly 10 decades or 1 century or 100 years, in the year of 1857, again a fierce battle, a lot of war took place between English East India Company, their officers, and with the Indian sepoys. Who are called the Indian sepoys? You know it very well. I don't think that you hardly need an explanation and definition about the Indian sepoys. Who are the Indian sepoys? The Indian sepoys, those who worked very hard, those who were obviously Indians by their birth, but they used to just work on behalf of the British East India Company. They were known as the Indian sepoys. So these Indian sepoys, they got discontented, disappointed, upset against the English East India Company, their injustice, their everything. So finally they had just outburst in a rebellion or a revolt that came to be known as the 1857's revolt, or either we can say 1857's revolt, or we can also call it the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. Though 1857's revolt is also known by several distinct names that I will just come to know, that I will just tell you shortly when I will just discuss about the nature and the characteristic features of 1857's revolt. At the time I will tell one by one that by which other names 1857's revolt known as. Okay, so I have already told that 1757, the Battle of Plassey. Now you can think that, sir, why you was telling the fact about 1757? We all know that what were the reasons of 1757's battle, the Battle of Plassey, and what were the consequences. We all know that. You don't need to just tell anything about that. But yes, you must know that after 1757, means in between 10 decades or 100 years, lots of important things had been just happened. The political situation of India, the economical condition of India absolutely got turned a different chapter. There was a severe blow. That was really a fatal blow for the Indian government, for the Mughal administration, for the politics, for the Indian politics, economy, social, everywhere. The injustices were there done by the British government, as because the British government, the British English East India Company, simultaneously, gradually, certainly, they were just pushing their frontier inside their country. They were just imposing harsh laws and difficulties towards the Indian Indian peoples, and the Indian people, the lives of the Indian people that got absolutely stuck with the British administration. Oh, I must say, this is not the administration, this was the maladministration that was just started by the British English East India Company in India. And for that reason, in the year of 1857, the sepoys of India, they had just revolted against the British government. But don't forget, children, that 1857's revolt was not the first revolt that was occurred, that was begun in India for the first time. Before 1857's revolt, lots of events had been just happened. I have already told in my previous videos. If you have not just watched the videos, please just search it, and go to the file, and finally you just from the playlist you can just come to know all the important events that had been just occurred, that had been just taken place before 1857's revolt. Okay, so very close to 1857's revolt, in the year of 1855, when the Santal revolt broke out. So Santal revolt, this cannot be called the Great Revolt. Why so? As because Santal, they were the tribes of India, and they had also resorted, they had also just disappointed, and they had started a violent protest movement against the English East India Company and their injustice in the year of 1855. And most importantly, the revolt was ruthlessly suppressed, and it was subdued by the British East India Company in the year of 1856. So the movement was not long lasting, but the British, they the Santals, they had taught a lesson to the English East India Company that if they continue their injustice on the Indian tribes or the local common people, they can just rise in a rebellion. They're having the capacity, though their manpower is not very much strong, though the equipments or weapons are not satisfactory or sufficient for them, but still when the situation becomes too harsh, or when the situation becomes, or the circumstances, when the circumstance becomes too rigid at the time, the Indians, they're also having the right, they're also having the strong power to just protest against this kind of injustice. So this was the lesson that was just taught by the Santali peoples, the Santals, Sidhu, Kanu, Chand, Vairab, lots of important leaders were there. So now I'm just going to reveal that what were the main causes of the 1857 revolt, and obviously for the outbreak of the any kind of revolt, two important reasons are basically responsible. First one is called the indirect causes, and number two, this is called the direct cause or the immediate cause. I repeat, indirect causes and the direct cause or the immediate cause. So what was the immediate cause of the 1857 revolt? I will tell first, then I will just discuss one by one that what were the indirect causes for the outbreak of the 1857 revolt. The immediate cause of the 1857 revolt was very interesting. That was the introduction of a new gun, a new kind of rifle, that was Enfield rifle. So what was the Enfield rifle? Enfield rifle, it was a new kind of technology that was just brought, that was introduced by the English East India Company, and that guns were provided to the Indian sepoys. So there was a rumor, there was a myth that spread all along in this countryside, that the paper cartridge of that, the greased cartridge of that particular rifle, Enfield rifle, before reloading the gun, they had to just they had to just tear the cartridge by their own teeth. And the rumor was there. What was the rumor? The rumor was the paper cartridge was made of with pork and beef fat. As you know that as per the holy religion, as per the holy or the sacred text of Hindu religion, the Hindus, they don't take beef, and the Muslims, they don't take pork. So it means the British intentionally, deliberately, they were trying to just convert the religion of the Hindus to the Hindus and Muslims to the Christianity. Perhaps this was a rumor, this was a myth that had been just spread all across the country, but the Indians, they were very much religious fanatics. There is no shred of doubt that the Indians, they are very much religious fanatics, and that's why they had believed on these things. And finally, at Barakpur near Damdam cantonment, it was on 29th March 1857, a soldier, his name was Mangal Pandey, he had fatally shot a British officer, and finally the British, they had just got very much upset with this incident, and they wanted to just give a corporal punishment, exceptional punishment to Mangal Pandey, but no one was there to just arrest Mangal Pandey. Finally Mangal Pandey was detained, and he was just hanged by the British English East India Company. So here a question may come that when did the 1857 revolt break out first? So in Kolkata, means in Dum cantonment at Barakpur, it was on 29th of March 1857. The revolt of 1857 means the revolt, it just broke out, it took place, and finally the organized protest movement that was started in Meerut, it was on 10th May 1857 when an all-round protest movement was started from the different sides. So, and the most important fact of 1857's revolt is that not only the Indian sepoys, they had just revolted and protested against the British injustice and their maladministration, malpractices in India, but without having, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, gender, all the Indians, they had just come out to just give their open support to drive away the British East India Company. So their primary motto or the basic objective of to just participate in 1857 revolt was to just drive away the British permanently from our country India. So this was the immediate cause. I'm just going to repeat once again, children, that was the immediate cause of the outbreak of the 1857 revolt. Obviously this was the introduction of Enfield rifle that was introduced by the English East India Company earlier, and they had forced all the Indians to just use that, but the Indians, they were not ready to accept that, as because they sought to think that the paper cartridge of this gun was just made with pork and beef fat. So that's why they had just denied to just use that. Okay, they had denied to use that. Okay, so this was the immediate cause. And what can I say about the indirect causes? Lots of reasons were responsible. So I have just divided to just denote, to just explain the indirect causes for the outbreak of the 1857 revolt in 3 different causes. First of all, I will discuss about the political cause. Number 2, I will just tell about the economic cause, and number 3, I will definitely tell about the social cause or the social injustice that was done on the Indian people, so that they had just resorted in a rebellion. They had just come with an outburst of the rebellion. What is the means? I will discuss about the political cause. What is the means political cause behind the outbreak of the 1857 revolt? Political cause: 2 important policies that were introduced by the British English East India Company earlier. The first one was Lord Wellesley's subsidiary alliance, and number 2, that was Lord Dalhousie's doctrine of lapse. By implementing the policy of subsidiary alliance, Lord Wellesley, he became successful to capture lots of Indian territories. He had just annexed all the important territories by implementing the policy of subsidiary alliance. And what was the subsidiary alliance? You know it very well. I don't need to say anything about the subsidiary alliance. Just like that, Lord Dalhousie's doctrine of lapse also played a vital role for annexing or capturing the Indian provinces or the Indian regions from the hands of the princely states. Just like that, for example, I'm saying that in Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai, she also just revolted against the English East India Company. Rani Lakshmi Bai, she was a Rani, she was a princess, but why did she join in the 1857 revolt? She was not a sepoy. So why did she join in this 1857 revolt? She had joined 1857 revolt as because you have to just find out the story, what was happened to her and what injustice that was done by the British English East India Company to her. Rani Lakshmi Bai, she got married with Gangadhar Rao. So Gangadhar Rao, when Gangadhar Rao and Rani Lakshmi Bai, they did not have any biological son or any natural heir. For that reason, they had adopted a son, and the name of the son was Damodar Rao. So Damodar Rao was the adopted son of Rani Lakshmi Bai and her husband Gangadhar Rao. So Damodar Rao did not get any affiliation or recognition from the sides of the British English East India Company. Why so? Because as per to the law of doctrine of lapse, no Indian ruler, no Indian prince will be allowed to just adopt any son if he doesn't have any natural heir or any biological son. So this was the terms and conditions of the doctrine of lapse. So that's why after the death of Gangadhar Rao, the husband of Manikarnika, I mean Rani Lakshmi Bai, the territory was annexed, or it was just absolutely acceded to the British dominion. So that's why Rani Lakshmi Bai, she fought against the British valiantly, and finally what was happened, you know it very well, that while fighting with the British, she died and self-immolation was there. Means she had just self-immolated herself, and finally she just passed away in the year of 1858, 18th of June. Okay, so this was the reason. By implementing lots of illegal illegal provisions and illegal proclamations, the British English East India Company, they one after another, they were just annexing the Indian provinces or the territories or the regions from the hands of the princely states or from the princes of different states. This was the political reason or the political cause for the outbreak of 1857's revolt. Next, I will tell definitely about the political cause, I mean the economic cause for the outbreak of 1857's revolt. What is the economic cause? Obviously, I can just stand with this doctrine that the British East India Company, they were exploiting the Indian economy by taking all the resources, important minerals from India. They were fulfilling their own expectations and desires in their own country. After the Industrial Revolution that just occurred in England in the year of 1760, I mean in the mid of the 18th century, the English East India Company, they had firmly established their own supremacy, monopoly over the Indian market, over the Indian economy, and they had exploiting Indian economy. They had just drained away all the Indian money. They had just taken it to their own country. So this theory later on came to be known as the sponge theory or drain of wealth theory. What is the drain of wealth theory? I have already explained. I know that you all know that what is the drain of wealth theory. So this economic reason was responsible for the outbreak of the 1857's revolt. Even not only the peasants, not only the cultivators or the farmers, they got exploited by the British English East India Company. Simultaneously, the Indian sepoys, they also got exploited and tortured by the English East India Company and their bad economic policy. How was how did they torture, how did they exploit the Indian sepoys? For a same post, for a same designation, the Indian sepoys, they used to just get a very lower salary, the lower wages from the English East India Company, and for a same task, for a same job, for same designation, the officers or the soldiers of the English East India Company, they were paid a very high salary or the higher salary. So this was kind of underestimation or undermining, and that had undermined the English, the soldiers of Indian sepoys, and finally they had just broken out in a rebellion or a revolution or a revolt, not revolution but a revolt. So this was the outbreak of 1857's revolt. Now I will tell you the social injustice and what was the social cause of 1857's revolt. The social cause was the British English East India Company. Every time they used to underestimate the Indian sepoys or the Indian soldiers, not by virtually, by morally also. Why so? As because morally they had just underestimated or undermined the Indian soldiers. They used to call the Indian soldiers by native, Kala Admi, and so on. Different names, different epithets have been just given to the Indian soldiers to denote themselves that the British, they were superior, and the Indians, as because the Indians, they are the black skinned people, they are the dark skinned people, so that's why they may be considered as the uncultured, mannerless. They don't know how to speak, they don't know how to just wear clothes, garments, they don't know how to work, and all these things. Every time they used to just underestimate the Indian sepoys, the Indian culture, the Indian society, the Indian educational system, everything. So the Indian society was under severe stake during that time. So finally there was no second option for the Indian sepoys to just overcome from this obstacle or the obstruction or the hindrance. So finally they had just come with an open rebellion or a revolt. So finally that came to be known as the 1857's revolt. Now I will tell you one by one that now I will tell about the nature or the characteristic features of 1857's revolt. First of all, I must tell you children that this was an exceptional movement or the revolt that broke out in the year of 1857 after 1757. So in these 100 years, I have already told you lots of important changes had been taken place in these 100 years, in this 1 century. So what has happened actually in the year of 1857? Lots of changes had been just taken place, and the most important fact is that this was for the very first time the Indian people, the Indian sepoys, and people from all part of all strata, they had just come to just support the revolt, to just revolt against the British suppression or oppression shoulder to shoulder. This was the first instance we can see. Though the British, they had ruthlessly suppressed the 1857's revolt in the year of 1858, but still the British, they were really frightened to see the characteristic to the outbreak or the flame of 1857's revolt. Even the English journals, they had also revealed that the British East India Company, the British Parliament, they also got frightened. They feared up, which means watching all the consequences and all the important events that had been just taken place during that time. So really, this was very much astonishing fact to us. They were really got astonished, amazed to see all these things. This was the fact. And if we're talking about the nature of 1857's revolt, there are lots of controversies has been just aroused on the basis of 1857's revolt and the nature, especially the nature of 1857's revolt. Why so? As because some historians, they are saying that 1857's revolt can be termed as the Great Revolt of 1857. Someone is saying that no, this was the first uprising, this was the first war of independence. Someone is saying that no, this was the first national uprising. Someone is saying no, nothing special we can just find out from 1857's revolt. It was only or merely it was a feudal response or feudal means revolt. So lots of events have been just described by different historians. Just for example, V.D. Savarkar, Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, full name, he had told that 1857's revolt should be called the first war of independence. Why so? As because this was the first time in the year of 1857 we could see that the Indians, without having proper knowledge of revolt, without having the proper knowledge of revolution, without having the proper leadership, without having proper equipments, ammunitions and weapons, they had resorted a rebellion against the English East India Company. So on that point of basis, from that point of view, we can say that 1857's revolt can be called as the first war of independence that was termed by Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, in short V.D. Savarkar. Okay. Next, our first Prime Minister of independent India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, he told it was 1857's revolt was only a feudal response, nothing more than that. Karl Marx, he told, I mean the communist Karl Marx, he told that 1857's revolt is termed as the national revolution or the national uprising. So different persons, they're having different opinions regarding the 1857's revolt. So the controversy is still going on. We cannot just reach out that particular universal point. From there we can say that no, this 1857 revolt is called the first war of independence. No, this can be termed as the Sepoy Mutiny, the Great War of 1857. So means amid all these, despite all these controversies and all these things, we can say that 1857's revolt really deserves a special mention in the Indian freedom struggle movement, as because this was the first united movement. This was the first united revolt that was just organized against the British oppression and their suppression. Now, we the Indians could just prove well enough to us that we could just revolt, we could just protest. The voice we had just raised during that time, that was very much spontaneous. We were not provoked from the outside or from the outer world, that we must just raise the banner of this rebellion. So the Indians, they were capable enough, they were just literally, they were very much capable to just raise their voice against the British and their injustice, their suppression and their oppression. So that's why on that point of basis we can say that really means this is really very appreciable, and this revolt of 1857 deserves a special mention. So this was the nature of 1857's revolt. And finally, I'm just going to tell that what was the verdict of 1857's revolt. I mean what was the impact of 1857's revolt. Though I have already told you children that the revolt of 1857 was ruthlessly suppressed by the English East India Company in the year of 1858. So finally, what was the most important change after the completion of the 1857's revolt? That was change in the administrative system. It means after the completion of the 1857's revolt, the power, or I mean the power of the rule, it got transferred from the hands of the English East India Company to the British government directly. I just repeat, what is the most important change or the consequence after the completion of 1857's revolt? That was the power, it was handed over, the power, it was just transferred from the hands of the English East India Company to the British government. The British government, they took the responsibility to just govern and administer India in future with their iron hand. Okay, this was the most important thing. And the second one, Queen's proclamation was also issued. You must know that Queen was there, Queen Victoria. She was the then Queen of Britain. She came to India, she had visited India, and watching all the reasons behind the emergence of 1857's revolt and everything. She even took the title of Empress of India, the Queen of India, and lots of means epithets had been just taken by her, and the direct means taking over the Indian administration, the power of the Indian administration, she had taken it in her own hand. Since that time, English East India Company only remained a company, not the administrator of India. This was the most important fact. Queen's proclamation was also issued on 1st of November 1858 by passing the Act for the Better Government of India on 2nd of August 1858. The power was just transferred from the English East India Company from British government. This was the most important change that we could have ever just seen from the outbreak of 1857's revolt. And I have already told you that perhaps we had just lost our battle, perhaps we had just lost everything in 1857's revolt, but we should not just forget, children, that the Indians, they had just learned a lesson. Even they could really able to just means give a lesson to the British government, to the English East India Company, that if the circumstances of the situation remains very bad, if it seems to be a very bad situation that is being just created by the English East India Company, the Indians, they're having the their power, they're really they're very much enthusiastic to just revolt and to protest against all these kind of injustices. So this was the really a very hard blow, I think, for the British government during that time, and this was the reason for what the power was transferred from the English East India Company to the British government. Now I will tell you that who were the leaders, those who had just fought for the Indians from Delhi. Obviously, Bahadur Shah Zafar, he was the last Mughal emperor also. He had just led the revolt from Delhi, though he could not just retain, though he could not just means lead the movement so nicely, as because at the time he was very much aged. So due to the burden of his age, he could not just lead the movement. But however, he had just fought valiantly against the British oppression. From Kanpur, he was Tatya Topi was there, Nana Shahib was there, and from Jhansi, I have already told you, Lakshmi Bai, she was there, I mean Manikarnika, she was there, and from Bihar, Kunwar Singh was there. From Awadh, Begum Hajrat Mahal, she was there. She had also fought valiantly against the British injustice in this 1857's revolt. So lots of people, lots of leaders, they had just given their leadership in this 1857's revolt. But we are really unfortunate, as because we the Indians, we did not have such kind of proper leadership. Yes, lots of leaders were there, but they did not have such kind of communication with one another. So that's why the future reference, the future guidelines were not just restrained, the guidelines were not just detected by them. It was due to the lack of communication, proper communication system, the movement failed untimely. And finally, I can say that the weapons, the equipments and the munitions that were just used by the Indian sepoys during that time, all those were very much backdated in comparison with the British English East India Company and their weapons. So due to the lack of leadership, due to the lack of unity, yes, come to the point of lack of unity. So lack of unity are obviously there. Few educated Bengali middle class, they did not support the revolt of 1857. Instead, they had supported to the English East India Company, as because by the verdict of English East India Company, when the English East India Company, they had just given them new life, a new trend of life to the middle class people. The middle class people, they sought to think that if the English East India Company defeated by the hands of the sepoys, so their prestige, their vanity, their social dignity will be just gone, that will be ruined, that will be absolutely destroyed. So that's why they did not just support the Indian sepoys. Instead, they had supported to the British soldiers. They had an intimate relation with the British. So that's why they did not support. So due to the lack of unity, the movement or the revolt untimely died, we can say. So these were the few reasons or the causes for the untimely death of 1857's revolt. But still, as I have already told you, that 1857's revolt just gave a lesson to the English East India Company that the Indians are capable enough, they are just able enough to just fight back if the circumstance seems to be very much worst for them. Okay, so now we'll definitely tell about the verdict of Bahadur Shah Zafar. Bahadur Shah Zafar, he was the last Mughal emperor of India. So Bahadur Shah Zafar, as because he was just proclaimed as the he was announced as the leader of 1857's revolt from Delhi, though he was not interested for the first time due to his burden of age. So he had just rejected, he had just denied that no, I will not take this responsibility. But finally, when he started to dream that if the sepoys they win, I will definitely get back my right, my vanity, my prestige, everything, what Akbar, Babur, means Jahangir, they did have during that time in their hands. So that's why he became enthusiastic to just lead this movement. So finally, when the justice was going on, I mean the court was going on, when he was detained by the English East India Company, because he as he had just given his support, whether it was the moral support or physical support to the sepoys. So that's why when the trial was going on, he had to just stand over there. No seat, no chair was provided to sit over there, as because he was aged during that time. You don't forget that. But still 1 hour 30 minutes he had to stand over there. And finally, what was the verdict that was given to him? He was sent for an exile to Yangon or Burma, present in Myanmar. He was sent over there for an exile as a means of punishment, as because he had just helped the Indian sepoys. Even this was happened even when he was on exile, he passed away over there. So this was all about the 1857's revolt, and we feel very proud for all the Indian sepoys that they had just revolted. Though the social cause was much more effective or essential for the outbreak of 1857's revolt, but we don't care what were the causes for the outbreak of 1857's revolt. But we know that one basic motto, or the primary motto, was selected, that was determined by the rebels. I will not tell here only the sepoys, I will tell about the rebels, those who had just revolted against the British injustice. That one common thing was there: they really wanted to just drive away the British forces from India permanently and forever. They did not just look back behind, though the enemies were there, though the enemies even were there from their own society, but still they did not just scare all those things. But finally they had just fought valiantly against the British. In the instance, you can take that Rani Lakshmi Bai, Tatia Topi, Begum Hazrat Mahal, Kunwar Singh, and lots of important leaders were there. Even how can we just forget the first martyr of 1857's revolt? He was Mangal Pandey. Yes, obviously Mangal Pandey was the first martyr of 1857's revolt, who had fatally shot a British officer with his own brave. He could just show the brave. Finally he was hanged, but that's different matter. But he had shown his brave well enough in this 1857's revolt. So the dates and events are also equally important. Most important dates and events I'm just going to recall. This is the recall capsule for all of you. You must just take it with water so that you can just memorize for your examination, for the preparation of your examination. 29th of March 1857's revolt. The movement broke out at Barakpur, Kolkata. 10th May 1857, the revolt broke out in Meerut. 18th June 1858, Rani Lakshmi Bai from Jhansi, she expired, means she died fighting with the British. And 1st of November 1858, Queen's Proclamation was issued. 2nd of August 1858, Act for the Better Government of India was passed. So these are the important events, few important events, as much as I can just cover from the textbook. I have been just told, I have told all these events for you, as because before starting the video I just assured you that I told you also that dates and events are very important. These all are the hands and legs of for reconstructing history. So that's why you can also just call it eyes and nose also. Okay, so chronology is very important, and chronology really deserves a special mention for reconstructing of any country's history. So that's why these events and dates are also very important. You can just write it in your copy so that you can just memorize this better for the future reference. So for today, the class is up to this, and if you're having any question in doubt, just go to the comment section and just write your question. I will definitely get back to you shortly. So stay safe and stay home, and bye bye children. Hope I will just come with a new video shortly from chapter number 6. Till then, stay safe, stay home. Bye bye children.